So you want to run further and you want to run faster, but you also want to get lean and lose body fat. Today I'm going to tell you the exact formula that I use for myself and for my clients to achieve that. Without any further ado, let's get into it. I recently posted this reel on my Instagram and it seems to be gaining a lot of traction and doing the round. So today I wanted to dive into the 5 points I make over there in a little bit more detail so that you can come away from this video with the knowledge of how to get lean and lose body fat as a runner. Now, I think it's really important at this point in the video to let you know that I'm taking a sustainable approach with this. So all the points I take and speak about today are going to be from a sustainable, long-term thinking perspective that really underpins everything I do here at Girl in Nutrition. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about my approach and my philosophy and my program, you can check in the link in the description and find out all the details down there. It includes prices, it includes the program details, so everything's revealed in the description below. But without any further ado, let's jump into this and not have any further delay. Starting with point number 1, which is creating a calorie deficit. Yes, you heard me correctly, creating a calorie deficit. It is impossible to lose body fat without being in a calorie deficit. Now, the way that you do that is what is important. I want to make it very, very clear that if you're not eating enough, you're not going to perform. Okay, so striking that balance between adequately fueling yourself whilst eliciting that calorie deficit is going to be vital here. So we're looking at a calorie deficit of around 5 to 10%. That means if your maintenance calories, just for argument's sake, just as a tangible example, are 2,000 calories per day, you do not want to be eating any less than around 1,800 calories. Okay, you want to get as close to maintenance as you can whilst enabling that fat loss to take place. Okay, so that might look like a 200 calorie deficit, that might look like a 300 calorie deficit. I wouldn't go any more than 500 calories regardless of what your maintenance calories are. So that's point number 1. You're adequately fueled, but you're in a slight deficit. So you're enabling the fat loss. Point number 2 is consuming a high protein diet. Now, why is this so important? The reason that it's important to consume a high protein diet is because you want to be maintaining as much muscle mass as you possibly can. Okay, when you're in a deficit, it becomes even more important to make sure that you're hitting your protein target. Now, what does that look like? I've made videos on this in the past, so be sure to check the link in the description once again for a video on exactly how much protein you should be eating as an athlete and as an individual each and every day. But as a bare minimum, you want to be hitting 1.6 grams per kilogram of your body weight in protein every day. Okay, that's a bare minimum. The closer you can get to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, the better. Okay, a nice high protein diet to maintain, if not grow muscle mass, whilst you're losing that precious or that non-precious body fat. Point number 3 is timing your carbohydrate consumption. Okay, you want to be getting in as much carbohydrates around your session as possible. This is important for performance, because whilst we are trying to lose body fat, that is part of our goal here, we don't want to sacrifice performance as a result. It's about getting both outcomes simultaneously, so we're performing well whilst losing the body fat. So, timing your carbohydrates around your training is super important. I'll put a visual on screen now that shows exactly how many carbohydrates you should be eating depending on the intensity and the duration of your training sessions and how far out you should be eating them before you train. Okay, so making sure that you're adequately fueled beforehand, during, and after your sessions to promote performance increments as well as recovery is going to be vital to your performance and to achieving this very goal. Moving on to point number 4, we're flying through these because I want to make sure that, I'm hitting the nail on the head and you can get this advice double quick time. Narrowing your eating window. Now, the evidence suggests for things like intermittent fasting, again, I've made a whole video on intermittent fasting and whether it should be right for you. Check the link in the description if you want to watch that one. But I think it's super important to acknowledge that the research evidence for intermittent fasting suggests that the most tangible benefit is the fact that it restricts calories throughout the day. So if we can squeeze our eating window, again, not at the consequence of fueling around our training sessions,
If you train in the morning, work backwards from that. If you train in the evening, work backwards from that. Okay, it's about forward thinking and backwards planning. Deciding, how this is going to fit around your lifestyle is super important. You don't want to be sacrificing once more your performance for any of these points here. So, deciphering when you're going to be training and then working out your eating window from there. The closer we can get to a 16-8 means that we can constrict our calories and make us feel satiated in our eating window. Okay, so if we're eating 3 meals in, let's say, 8 to 10 hours, so we're not eating for 14 to 16 hours of the day, we're going to feel a lot more satiated in that period than we are if we're eating on a 12-12 or a 10-14 on the flip side of the intermittent fasting equation. Okay, so if we can restrict our eating window, we restrict our calories by simply enabling ourselves to feel more satiated and more full and less hungry. I think that's the key here. Making sure that we're not feeling hungry and making this as easy for ourselves as we possibly can. I want to emphasize the point once more. Be sure or make sure that you're not doing this at the consequence of your training. If you're training in the morning, please don't do it fasted. It's more important to take on the carbohydrates than to meet this point of our 5-point equation here. But if you can restrict your calories, do so. If you can restrict your eating window and fuss your total calorie intake, do so. The final point is staying hydrated. So often we can mistake thirst for hunger and eat unnecessarily. Make sure you're staying hydrated first. Take on a solid profile of electrolytes, especially if you're training hard and sweating often, okay? So staying hydrated is super important. We are at our most dehydrated in the morning simply because we haven't drunk through the night. So make sure we're hydrating well in the morning. Drink at least, a large glass or a pint of water upon awakening, because that's going to kickstart the day on the right foot, get our metabolism firing. Staying hydrated can even help us distinguish between our hunger and fullness cues. So this is a super important one. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned anything about calorie counting. Of course, I did mention that it's important to find your deficit, or at least your maintenance, so that you can work backwards from that and figure out your deficit from there. I think, and I will suggest, that you use calorie counting and macro equations as a tool at the start of this journey. So upon embarking on the goal of losing body fat while simultaneously improving running and athletic performance, you might track for a day, you might track for 2 days, 3, maybe even a week, whatever feels comfortable for you, to establish where you are, to establish exactly how much food you should be eating, what feels right based on the numbers, and then you can become more intuitive with it from there. I think that's more conducive to a sustainable approach, so that's my advice and a little bonus tip to round out this 5-point video. So once more, just to recap, because I appreciate I've flown through these. Point number 1, create yourself a calorie deficit. You're never going to lose fat unless you're in a calorie deficit. I don't care what anybody says. That is just science. That is, the laws of energy balance. Create yourself a calorie deficit. Only of around 5 to 10%, a maximum of 500 calories. That's key. You want to keep as close to maintenance as possible whilst eliciting the fat loss. A nice high protein diet. The closer you can get to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, the better. If you can push beyond that to up towards 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight, you're going to be doing yourself no harm, and you're going to be ensuring that you're maintaining that muscle mass while stripping that fat mass. You're getting lean that way. You're getting super lean. Point number 3 is timing your carbohydrate consumption around your training. Okay, making sure that you're adequately fueled before, during and after your sessions. So make sure that you're performing well during your runs or your training sessions, and you're recovering well after. Ensuring that you're getting on carbs, within 30 minutes to an hour after training can improve recovery benefits by up to 30%. It can also stimulate muscle protein synthesis, which is super important. You want to be topping off your glycogen stores and restoring them as quickly as possible after training. So it's not just important to fuel up before, it's also important to fuel up after. Point number 4, can you narrow your eating window? Again, make sure that you're working backwards from the times that you typically train. Incorporate this into your routine and into your typical lifestyle. Can you squeeze your eating window? Make it easy for yourself, because I don't know about you, but as soon as you eat that first bite of food in the day, it becomes a lot easier to eat more. Okay, so if we can restrict that window, we're doing ourselves a favour. Point number 5, stay hydrated. We often mistake thirst for hunger, so making sure that we're staying hydrated and hydrating first thing in each and every day is going to be super important and help with this very goal. And just to re-mention that bonus tip, use calorie counting, use macro counting as a tool at the start of this journey to ensure that you're starting on the right foot. I appreciate I've flown through these points once more. If you've got any questions on anything that I've spoken about here today, be sure to drop them in the comments down below. You'll also find a link to my Instagram in the description, so you can go and ask me some specific questions over in the DMs over there. I'm always happy to answer your questions and help with anything specific that you may need. I'll remind you once more that also in the description you can find a link that will take you to a page that explains more about my program, where you might be able to, decipher whether the Nutritional Growth Blueprint, the program that I run for my clients, is indeed the right fit for you. Again, all the prices are over there. All the details on the program are over there. I'm fully transparent with prices. It's not behind any sort of video call or discovery call. It's all pretty open. If you do want to have a chat about it, I'm always happy to talk. So please make sure to book in a call if you'd like to discover a little bit more or ask any more specific questions. There's also going to be the links to those videos that I mentioned, so you can figure out exactly how many carbohydrates you should be eating each day, exactly how much protein you should be eating each day, whether intermittent fasting is right for you. So be sure to go check those videos after this one. But other than that, I've been Sam Gerlin. I'm the founder of Gerlin Nutrition. I'm a fully qualified nutritionist, and that is me rounding out another video here on YouTube. Please consider hitting that like button, commenting and subscribing, because I'm posting free high value YouTube videos like this every single week. If you've enjoyed it, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one in a bit.